Welcome to the Is That So show. We have another Zanger today. We have Ms. Nicole Sublette, and I'm going to let her come on stage and let me know, exactly how she like to be referred to. But she definitely, this sister, she's definitely a brilliant sister. I spoke to her briefly backstage before the show, and she's definitely, you're going to see some synergy occur on this episode once again, and that's what I seek to find. I seek to align myself with people that I have an energetic equivalency to, and there's definitely several dimensions of wellness. And so one of those dimensions that I really appreciate that this sister pays close attention to apparently is intellectual wellness, because she has a lot of great knowledge. So she's going to drop some jewels for us in a second. I'm about to bring this sister on the stage. All right. So I appreciate y'all being with me on this episode. This is I believe episode 9 of the Is That So show. So we are going through it, and it's just this season has been so good. Mind, body, medicine has been the theme. And so today we're going to hear a lot about energy as well. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage Miss Nicole Sublette.
Hello. Oh, I love that.
A little applause there,
Yeah.
How you doing today?
I'm super well. I'm very, very excited to be here and connect with you, and also to create that synergy. So I'm very excited about today.
Yes. And so real quick, can you just real quick introduce yourself to the people? I mean, we know she did not come on here to be braggadocious, but I just want y'all to understand that she has put in some work to be where she is right here in life. And actually where she is right now is only a glimpse of where she's going, because the work that she put in, she hasn't fully caught up with the residuals yet, but those residuals are on the way. I already feel it. So anyway, sister, can you tell the people a little bit about yourself? I'm gonna go backstage for a second. I'm gonna let you talk to them for a second. All right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Nicole Sublette. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I reside in the state of New Hampshire. I am also a certified hypnotherapist, Reiki Master, Integrative Medicine provider, and I'm also a doctoral candidate in Bioenergetic Medicine. I do social advocacy, and I often teach and speak about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And closest to my heart is that I am also a woman's empowerment coach. So that is me in a nutshell.
All right. Well, welcome to the stage, sister. Welcome to the stage. So yeah, that's a lot. So can you, all right, I'm gonna get straight into the questions. All right. And then I'm just gonna let it flow the way it flow. I have a few questions for that, I jotted down, but it's still going to be a natural dialogue where we just let it flow. These are just kickstarters, all right, just to ignite the engine there. And then you all going to see some sparks and some synergy going. All right. So question number 1, how did you pivot from a practice to an online program, and why did you make that shift?
So it was really the global pandemic, and I was in private practice and I was seeing people in person. And then I had an intuition one day that I needed to just be online and do 100% telehealth. This is pre-vaccination. And this is not about vaccination, but this is pre-vaccination. And so I decided to follow intuitively to make that shift. And really, I made that shift. And then I got a call from a client who had shared, they had contracted COVID, and 1 out of 4 of my clients had contracted COVID. So I felt very blessed to go with my intuition, because it's not only about my safety, but it's also about the safety of the clients that I see as well, and protecting them. Therapy is supposed to be a safe enough space for people.
So yeah, in therapy, they definitely drill in our head about making sure that, there's a safe space, no harm to the client, always priority. But you and I, and I'm including myself in this, you and I, we've taken an even more, I would say, a more personal approach, in that we also focus on the actual healing component. of humanity. Not that therapy in of itself is not meant to help a person heal, but we went into certain specialties and began to study certain specific things about how to heal the body. And so, which brings up the next question: energy work and energy healing. What are the biggest misconceptions around energy work? I love this question.
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's fantastic. And so there's so many misconceptions around energy work. A lot of people think it's like woo-woo stuff, or energies from the ether and something magically is going to happen. And what energy work truly is that we're all comprised of energy, and we have so many different systems within the body that are energetic systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really not woo-woo, it's not esoteric. It's actually based in anatomy and physiology, and that our cells, our bodies have automatic functions. That's all driven by energy. And so we don't have to think about blinking. We don't have to think about our heart beating. That just happens. But what powers that? It's the energy of the body in its own capacity and its own intelligence.
Mm-hmm. And so how can one use this energy? This is, adaptation for the question, but how can one use this information, this knowledge, and convert it into wisdom? How can one take this knowledge and then make it applicable to one's, practice, daily skill of living?
So I think a beautiful way to do that is to be in gratitude for oneself. It is not based on ability. It's not based on disability, but it's based on the mere fact of being alive and knowing that being alive in itself is just miraculous. And when you can understand that you are miraculous, that's going to change your daily living.
I'm sorry, there was this test that literally showed that we are bodies of light. Like when they took the pictures, the scans, it literally showed us as energetic bodies of light. Are you familiar with that test?
Yeah, there's several different types of tests, and there are tests out there that are designed to look at people's electromagnetic frequencies. And so, and not only just the electromagnetic frequency, it's, found throughout the body, and even the brain has different wavelengths, which are also different streams of consciousness. So everything has this kind of its own energetic layers. There are institutions out there, for example, like the Heart Math Institute. They're looking at people in what is called resonance, and it's really the way that we vibrate. And what they have found is that that the Earth has its own frequency, its own resonance. It's called the Schumann resonance. But they have found that when we are in states of love, joy, bliss, and gratitude, we're actually matching the frequency of the Earth. So the hippie people were right. The tree huggers were right. It is about actually.
Yes, for tree huggers and hippies. Yes.
Yeah,
all right.
they were right. Yeah. It's about being in connection with the Earth. And so when we're in those higher feel-good states, we're literally matching the frequency of the Earth. How amazing is that? It's so amazing to me.
And so gratitude practice, this is one thing. I just added a gratitude course to my private practice. And, I put that together for people. Not way. I offer a gratitude course for my clients because the gratitude is the highest state of receivership, and think about that. When you are in a space of receiving, you can't be both in a space of receiving and at the same time defending. You see, gratitude takes you out of that defense posture, which means now you have to move out of fight or flight state into more social gathering, peace, win tolerance state where you have that homeostasis, mentally, spiritually, and hopefully physically. But, at least one of those main categories, one of those main dimensions, is in homeostasis, but mainly you spiritually, mentally, energetically, you come to homeostasis whenever you practice gratitude. Anytime I lose a loved one, I lost my grandfather to COVID last year, on Easter, and I'm named after my grandfather. First thing I did was go outside when they told me. I went straight outside to my back porch and I began giving thanks. I gave thanks for everything that I saw. because I didn't want to have to spend the mental energy of trying to conjure up something to be thankful for, because there's a lot of things to be thankful for, but just real basic, my emotions are high. I am choosing to be grateful for the trees. I'm choosing to be grateful for this sunlight, for this wind, for knowing that he is now in a better place, for knowing the energetic role that he played in my life. The redefining and defining that occurred because of this collision. And instead of crying that it's, oh, I'm grateful that it even happened. And when I move into that space of gratitude, I experience a sense of appreciation and fulfillment, knowing that it's okay for this stage. You know, uh, if you want to understand death, you look at it in the heart of life. If you understand life, you look at it in the heart of death. And I understand that the two are interwoven. And we must accept one, because while life is at the, maybe sitting beside us, death is definitely at the foot of the bed. And that's not a dire thing, because when we see death, death is an energetic transition.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of research around gratitude, even meditation, which is heart-based meditation, around prayer, that people heal faster when they're being prayed upon or prayed for. And so when we talk about getting the body into homeostasis, what that means is that the body is really operating optimally. And it's said if the body is truly in homeostasis, one can actually never die, right? Because there's nothing wrong with any of the systems in the body. Everything's operating well. And so when we have simple routines or rituals, we can actually increase that optimal state. And if we're in feel good states, then the body tends to respond to that. I mean, our cells have their own intelligence, and they're really listening to how we speak to ourselves, how we treat ourselves. Is so important in getting to those optimal states, because the body is so responsive. I mean, and if you think about it, and how even mental health conditions manifest, they can manifest somatically. Like maybe anxiety can look like a stomach ache, or depression can look like lethargy. And so there is such an interconnection between our physical state of being and our emotional state of being and our mental state of being. And it's not, a lot of people think in therapy, it's just, oh, you're working on the head. And, there's a lot of separation between mind and body, but there is no separation. It is one. And it is important that we understand that as one. That is why I do the holistic work, so I can help people return to more optimal states of being, because I am working with it as one and not separate, because we actually cannot separate. There's no division.
On. How do we get into energetic alignment? What does that do for us? And what is energetic alignment system?
So energetic alignment, again, means coming back to that space of optimal operation, well-being, homeostasis. And there are so many ways that one can get into energetic alignment. Simple ways to get into energetic alignment is to actually go out into the forest and connect with nature, and the body, the physiology of the body will start to resonate with the nature, and we can even get into the parasympathetic nervous system. We can become more relaxed when we're out in nature. So that's one way to get into alignment. Other ways to get into alignment is to nourish your body well. Eat foods that are considered what are called high energetic foods. What I mean by high energetic foods is that foods are that are natural and from the earth. And so the more natural, the more whole it is, the more beneficial it is for your body. A lot of our food is so toxic. A lot of the refined sugars and the corn syrups and the additives and the artificial coloring can cause a lot of damage to the body. And so eating naturally, as close as you can to as how Mother Nature made it, is one way to get into alignment. Proper sleep. Our circadian rhythms, which is based on the dark light cycles, is really matching, getting good quality sleep every night, and actually living with the natural cycle of light.
So why healing from trauma and ancestral wounds is so important? Why is healing why is healing from trauma, ancestral wounds is so important?
Well, trauma, it lives inside of the body. It stays and is stored. The information of the trauma is stored in the body. And we also have epigenetics. And so when we talk about ancestral trauma, is that they're finding that some of the trauma going back generations is part of our current state of being, and it's in our physiology and lives within inside of us. So we can have it from our families, and we can also have trauma that we experience, whether it's a big traumatic event or day-to-day trauma. And one reason why it's important to heal trauma is that if we are living in a traumatized state, we are more susceptible to disease. And so what I mean by that is that when we're in a trauma state, we're in our amygdala, so it's called the reptilian brain, and it's often fight, flight, and freeze. And what that means is that the brain is always scanning for danger. So you might be in a situation that seems dangerous and it's actually not, and then you're having these flood of hormones in your body, so epinephrine and cortisol. And so what happens when you're in that state, one is that you're not in the front of your brain, and so you're not necessarily emotionally regulated or making rational decisions. But most importantly, the body's always ready to fight, flight, or freeze. And what that means is that the blood is going to the limbs. It's moving away from the stomach. And that means we're less able to fight disease, and we're more susceptible to fight disease. And this is hugely critical because, especially in a global pandemic, if we're in trauma mind, we are more susceptible to getting sick. And also having trauma stored in the body, it is shown that there's a link between trauma and type 2 diabetes. There's a link between trauma and hypertension. There's a link between trauma and cardiac disease. People with trauma have a shortened life expectancy in general, increased risk for suicide with trauma. For a lot of people, when they think they have to do trauma work, they think that they can't handle it. They're going to do what is called flooding, or they're going to go crazy, or they're never going to come back from it, or they can never heal. And basically, trauma work is like shaking a soda bottle. It's going to explode at first and then go flat. And so it might be uncomfortable at times, and it might be painful, but the reward at the end is far greater. And one doesn't go crazy because they do trauma work, especially if they do it with a supportive, knowledgeable provider. The results can be amazingly profound and freeing.
Mm-hmm. So about that process is freeing. What occurs in the process of leaning into your discomfort, facing your trauma? That's, you just put my verb on it, but leaning into your discomfort and facing your trauma. How does that occur? How does the switch happen?
It's like any great thing that we do, right? And so we can't have courage without fear, right? You can't do a courageous act unless you're afraid. And so when we lean into ourselves and give us the grace of ourselves, then the reward is great. And then also the brain has a reward system for everything we do. And we as humans, we're wired for pleasure. So even when we're doing something difficult and we get through it, you're going to have a reward system anyways, whether you want to or not, because the brain's going to be like, ooh, reward, you did something nice and I feel so good. And also when we think about leaning into the shadow or parts of self, it's oftentimes what we push away, parts of ourselves that we don't like, are the parts of ourselves that actually need the most love, the most light, and the most healing. And so once again, when we're talking about fear, is that when we can bring back and offer love to those parts of ourselves that we tend to shut down, don't listen to, and instead love them, we can experience a more full integration. And with, as you're saying, Harry, like kind of living in the past or being triggered by the past because it's old wounding, it really takes away from the quality of life when we're not living in the present. You know, we might miss beautiful things that are happening in the now, in the presence, in the grace and the peace that one can experience by being fully in the present.
So what do you see as common blocks, limiting beliefs in women? What is holding women back from experiencing freedom and happiness? Asked by Hannah from Canada.
That's a really deep question. And so for women, it is really primarily conditioning. And so we are inherently a marginalized gender, meaning that we have less opportunity, power, and privilege. And so most women are taught from a very young age, infancy, a lot of times, that they are less than. And there's been a lot of conditioning around it. I was following even some media, there's this ad, I saw this TED Talk, this woman was talking about this ad for 12-year-olds, and there's talking, and the ad said, your breast could be too full, too pert, too saggy, too thin. So anyway, a breast could be, the ad was saying to 12-year-old girls, your breasts are going to develop improperly. They're not going to look good no matter what they look like, but at least you can have great hair. And so there's this level of deep conditioning. And when we think of, as a woman, we have different types of oppression. And at the top, we have ideology, which is what society deems as best. And then we have institutional, interpersonal, and then it goes into internalized. So what's going on in society, we women actually think that there's something wrong with us, but we've internalized it to believe that there's something wrong with us, but it's actually society telling us and feeding us these messages constantly that we're less than and inadequate. So a lot of work with me is, like, I call it coming out of the matrix. It's like peeling back the layers, looking at the truth, looking at the history of fat shaming, looking at where all these things come from, and knowing that you weren't believing that, but you were conditioned to believe that. Just like in some families and cultures, children are taught to believe that Santa Claus is real, and that the messaging from our parents is real, but it's the same thing. It's not real. It's conditioning. And women need to know that. And it's a falsehood, because if we say that, one type of look is better than another, or one kind of beauty is better than another, then we're actually admitting and saying that one type of person is actually better than another. And that's not true, because we're all flowers in this beautiful garden.
So what happens with internalized oppression is that the person begins to see themselves the exact same way the oppressor sees them. The oppressor sees them, or the oppressive messages. And so that begins the feedback loop, because now, again, whatever you stare at becomes your reality. And so if all you stare at is your inferiority, even if it's coded in commercials, soap commercials or whatever, hair commercials or whatever, if all you're continually staring at is in your own inferiority, or the illusion of your own inferiority, then your mind attaches itself to that image, and now it believes itself to be inferior. That's why I tell you that we are not ashamed. And knowing that immediately, and developing the skill of separating yourself from your story, and understanding that you are not a mistake, or you are not your mistakes. What happened just happened, and that's just what it is. Happenings are happenings, but our mind is making a judgment based off of what is happening. Just make sure, if it does make a judgment based off of what happens, that the judgment does not extend to making a judgment on who you are as a person, because you are not your story.
The oppression is, a lot of it is intentional. That's why, the weight loss industry is $1 trillion industry. And so, because we're constantly being sold our imperfection. And so a lot of it is for industry. A lot of it is for profit. And so it's being really wise and being really cautious about what you're telling yourself.
I found human behavior to be so fascinating. We think crazy. He goes, ha, 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 bless your soul. You really think you're in control. Mm-hmm. And the more you understand about human behavior, it really is like we're these little computer programs. It's like, this happened, the mind gonna do this and this and this and this. Some of my new, when new clients come to me, oftentimes, I have to let them know that I'm not psychic. I don't have any psychic abilities that I'm aware of. All right. And I have to tell them that, because after about 5 minutes of them saying exactly what they come in for, we can spell out their story for them. That's not no superpower. It's, I'm able to recognize energetically patterns that are occurring within humans, and based off of certain things, we conclude certain things. It's this natural default state of being in what was called in I believe Tara Brach, Dr. Tara Brach or Brach. Mm-hmm. She said the trance of unworthiness and the radical acceptance. That's pretty much the trance that we have to awaken from, because that's the true matrix. That's the illusion. This belief that something is inherently wrong with me, something is inherently wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Okay, I can continue going on, but you're familiar with the book?
Yeah. I believe it's, what is it? Radical acceptance.
Yes, radical
Yeah.
acceptance, radical
Yeah.
acceptance.
Yeah.
So as a licensed psychotherapist, so now I've gotten through the questions I had for you, but now I'm looking at this history and I'm definitely curious. So as a psychotherapist, what do you say is one of the biggest takeaways that you've personally gained from being a psychotherapist?
So one of the biggest takeaways that I have gained from being a psychotherapist is just witnessing human strength, human capacity, and human resilience. Especially psychotherapy can be a completely vulnerable experience, and just working with so many people, and being present and witness to so many stories, and just hearing about human survival. It's a really beautiful thing, and it just seeing the human soul is a beautiful thing to witness, and I
Mm-hmm.
love that aspect.
Let me ask you one of the questions that I get asked all the time. So how long does it take to heal?
How long is it? Healing is it's a lifelong journey. And I often say this, because I have some clients that I also do more holistic private work with, and they can get to these beautiful states of bliss and love, conscious awareness. It's a beautiful state to be in, right? And they can be up there, and then they fall. They're like, oh, why am I not, Nicole, in these beautiful states anymore? Because it's like everything is a cycle, and it's just like you can't always inhale when you're breathing. You have to exhale, and healing is a journey. And even if it's difficult or painful, it's all a lesson to me. It's all a lesson towards love. It's all a lesson toward becoming. And it is a lifelong lesson, and it can just grow and grow and grow and grow. And it can be epically beautiful. It can be epically painful. But at the end of the day, it's about us returning to ourselves, which is the home within ourselves. And so it's a beautiful and incredible process.
What is the difference between, it's another question I get asked, hypnotism and hypnotherapy?
Between what and hypnotherapy?
Hypnotism therapy.
Hypnotism and hypnotherapy. Well, in essence, they're very similar. It really, though, a hypnotherapist actually cannot be qualified a hypnotherapist unless they're a licensed professional. So anyone can practice hypnotism as long as they go through proper trainings and making sure they're going through a good training as well. But that is the primary difference, is a matter of licensing. So licensed professionals can be hypnotherapists.
So hypnotherapists make people bark like dogs, like hypnotists.
No, oh no. So you're talking about stage hypnotism. So you can be a hypnotist and do healing work, but stage hypnotism, that's all fake. Like barking like dogs, running around with like a chicken with your head cut off. That's about people being on stage, right? And that stage presence. But hypnotherapy is nothing like that. It's actually getting people to what is called a theta wavelength. So it's a very deep it's a very deep, relaxed state of being, an open state of being. So when you're in theta, you are more prone to taking suggestion, like healthy suggestion, and bypassing the cognitive brain. Because, as a therapist, you can suggest all kinds of things, like, maybe you should take more walks, or maybe you should try healthy eating and things like that. But with hypnotherapy, if someone's in a relaxed state and you're saying, now you have a desire to take more walks, or you desire an apple over this piece of cake, the mind is more receptive. But when someone's being hypnotized, they always have a level of awareness. They always have full control. They can get up at any time if there's an emergency. It's not like brain control. It's just being in a more relaxed, receptive state to positive suggestion.
Mm-hmm. And also understanding that in hypnotherapy, there's a point there. Like stage hypnotism, like Sis was saying, like that's not really, that has nothing to do with hypnotherapy. And there are people who do hypnotism for entertainment, and that definitely depending on how suggestible you are. It's the same being in that theta state. Most of us remain in a beta state. And so another thing that you need to understand when you go to like a professional for hypnotherapy is that if we make a suggestion, it has to be something that's affirming, that's true for you. If it's not true for you, then you're going to reject it anyway. Yes. So there's no implanting nonsense head thinking that, nobody hypnotized me into believing I hold Kidman or nothing like that. That's no. I mean, extremely. I guess it's possible if I'm extremely suggestible, but highly unlikely. Like that. I don't want to rule it out. I don't want to rule out, the impossibility of it. Anything is possible, but no, that doesn't happen. So don't fear going to, and definitely not a hypnotherapist. We and that's all about what the client wants, the person's looking for, type of healing. And what happens is the guardian that we typically have, which is the triggers. When we get triggered, these guardians that rise up, anger, or part that wants to like flee or hide itself here, like when those come up, what hypnotherapy is designed to go beyond those protectors so that we can actually have a conversation with the subconscious and understand it, so that that dialogue begins, and then the mind begins to heal itself via that dialogue, via connecting back. Because what trauma does, and a lot of the judgments that the mind makes does, is it causes us to be fractured in personality and fractured in thought. No, I'm not giving you a diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder. I'm saying that we all have this, that we all could become split. We can all become indecisive in life and feel stagnant. Many of us go to a space of feeling stagnant, a period. All of us at some point will go through that period.
You're absolutely right. And especially the part, it's important for people to know that they can reject any suggestion that's not resonant with them or does not work for them. And it's super important. And then also as therapists, we are bound, it's our ethical duty to do no harm. So we're not going to be offering suggestions that would cause harm.
Yes. And so as you specifically focused on being I say specifically, you're accomplished in so many different areas. I can't really say specific, but there are very specific areas focused in. So why being an empowerment coach and a feminine mentor, why is that your passion? Social advocate, why is that your passion? How did that become your passion?
Well, I think that it's been a lifelong passion that's been cultivated, and hearing so many messages about myself, what I should be, what I can't be, especially as a woman of color, a lot of negative messaging. I was really tired of having these internal dialogues of less than, and I really dove into that. I really dove into trying to work and understand myself, and experiencing and finding really great and beautiful things about myself and some of my gifts that I didn't even know that I had, and also knowing that I could move through spaces feeling really wonderful and amazing about myself, and having resiliency when, as a woman of color, having too marginalized identity, I really shouldn't, and being able to feel amazing. And I really wanted to be able to share that with others. And that's also upon of mine research. I have thousands of books and just researching different ways to empower different healing modalities, always growing, always expanding, and just culminating all this knowledge and taking that and wanting to give that to women. So, because I imagine if we had a tribe of awakened women, we'd just stop, we could band together and we could really change the world, but changing the world starts here within. We change, we're the microcosm that impacts the macrocosm. And if we're all waking up, we can all work together to create change for our sisters, our daughters, our mothers. And I don't mean that just biologically, I just mean it through the connection of humanity.
And so, sister, using my own, I'm going to use my own language here, my own phrasing. So give us what that better looks like. Help us experience the experience so that we can one day walk into that experience. What does that change look like? What is the change you hope to usher in?
The change looks like when we just start loving ourselves. And when we start loving ourselves and really practicing being unconditional, even if stuff arises, right? This is not about perfection, but when we can start loving ourselves and we can start loving each other, then we're going to treat each other better. And I think that's just most important. And this is not saying we all have to have the same point of views or the same political beliefs, but it's allowing space for us to all show up, for us to all be different, and also to all honor ourselves. Because when we can actually tap into ourselves, we can actually tap into our greatness. And when we're tapped into our greatness, we're actually just happen to be resonant with the planet that we live on. And we can live and design and create the life of our dreams, literally create the life that we want to live. And it's an absolutely beautiful thing. And we're all divine. We're not born here as a mistake. We're all divine, and we all have purpose. And it's not based on capability or ability or skin tone or gender or anything like that. We all have purpose just because we're inherently here, and it's finding that purpose and experiencing life.
I'm motivated by passion. I'm motivated by passion and my purpose. And definitely my passion did lead me to my purpose, which, I'm a psychotherapist, and also I'm here, doing this show. But the reason why I created this is so I can have open space in order to put that message out there. My to others in developing the audacity to live unapologetically authentic. But we got to understand how to develop that audacity and understand that a life of authenticity is a life of skillfully practicing living through your values. And so we got to understand that besides having a POA or a plan of action for your day, you also got to come up or wake up with a POA, which is a plan of approach. And that's something to discuss in an online course that I'm talking about. It's a lit factor where I'm not only going to be, it's more than just an online course, because the basics are there. I'm going to teach about emotions, because a lot of us don't even understand what our emotions are. Like, they don't even, I ask somebody, how do you feel? Oh, I'm tired. Okay, give me an emotion to that tired, because you're talking about a physical state of being. We talk about fatigue. What are you talking about? Are you talking about emotional exhaustion? And if so, what emotion are you specifically feeling right now? And so we struggle with even understanding what our emotions are. So there are some pretty, step one basics that we got to go through regarding emotions that I go through on my course. But also I'm there as a coach. So I'm going to meet probably bi-weekly to take in any questions so we can process that and make that applicable, because it's not about knowledge. There's so many online courses out there, so many books out there. It's not so much about knowledge as much as it about moving from knowing, from the understanding rather, to actually understanding, which I call, which I says actually knowing how to use that information and make it applicable to your life. So knowing, we understand so much. You said research thousands of books. Like I can turn I'm not gonna turn my camera on right now because my office is not the cleanest. But there you go. Look at any critic just that quick, as if that even mattered. Like all the mess exists in the illusion, in the Maya. But anyway, I have a lot of research too. And so what we didn't do, and I'm gonna speak for you. I already know. I don't know your people. I don't know your family. I ain't asked your best friend nothing about this, but I already know off of the fact that you even have this dialogue with me, that we have an insatiable thirst for knowledge. And so we didn't just stop at learning enough to get a sheet of paper and do our job. That wasn't good enough for us.
No.
We were hungry. We wanted more. We needed to understand, and we needed to move from understanding to understanding. And we knew that there's one thing to be on this surface level understanding, right? That's understanding. But when you can dive deeper within that truth, because it's not about knowing, say, like I'm learning the wrong thing. If you just what it is that you know, I say again, if we were to dig endlessly, no matter where you stand on the earth, we eventually all reach the same core. Just know, go deeper in your, when you go deep enough, you see that everybody's, no matter what discipline, no matter what belief, they're all speaking the same energetic language, because like they're fluid, But sister, I see now what you think, what you feel.
Yeah. I think, and looking at all this stuff that I've researched, there are more common threads than disparate threads. And I think about too, if we could just, get out of bed, whatever a bed is to anybody, I'm not, but when we wake up night or day, if we can wake up just feeling good about ourselves is so important. How amazing would that be? And I really challenge people to think about that. How amazing would it be when you opened your eyes every day that you just felt amazing about yourself, and what could you accomplish? And that's when we talk about energetics or homeostasis. When we are in good feeling places, mind, body, soul. There's so much that we can do. And I think even humans are learning to tap into their potential. And what science is finding, that we've probably got far more potential, right, than we even know. You even talked about psychic ability, and, you know, there's research on that. You know, they're starting to research that and saying a lot of people have innate psychic abilities. You know, it's amazing. And what was considered woo-woo, right, or they're finding science is really quickly backing. And I think that's a beautiful marriage. You know, it's gorgeous. And so here it is.
Sister, look, I need you to come back on here, because I'm not going to, like, without talking about being an anti-racist educator. We may make an entire episode on anti-racism. And also, I wanted to ask you more questions about, like, hypnotherapy and being a Reiki master. I didn't even get to the Reiki master part, you know, but I definitely got to jump on the house. But I want to give you the stage momentarily, if you don't mind. I would love you to just tell the people whatever message you want to tell them, you know, whoever, whatever you need to say to the people.
I just want to share with everybody out there watching this podcast or listening to this podcast that change is possible, healing is possible, and living a beautiful life is possible, no matter what state you're in or how you feel. That you are truly destined for greatness. And you might have been told at a very young age that you're no good or you can't do these things. And know and believe that you're beyond your capacity. You are beyond your capacity, and that you are deserving of all the wellness and goodness in life. And so I just wanted to share that with you, and specifically for any women who are wanting to do a deeper dive into self-healing and real self-love and true happiness. I urge you to reach out to me. My name is Nicole Sublette, and you can reach out to me at my website, www.becominggoddess.com. I want to share this for any woman who's looking to go on a richer, more beautiful journey of self-becoming and healing.
Okay, you're just not gonna say something. Okay, I'm gonna have to go into some other time a little bit more. You're not gonna just say Becoming Goddess and not explain that website. So can you tell us a little bit more about Becoming Goddess, please?
Yes. So for Becoming Goddess, it's I have a program called Accelerated Transformation, where I use a blend of modalities, and such as hypnotherapy, energy healing, ancestral healing. And really, it is a program designed to tap women into her innate greatness, her innate beauty. And I'm not just talking physical beauty, but the truth of whom she is, and peeling back the layers and not striving for perfectionism, and really understanding what it is like to show up for oneself to create true healing. And so, one, they can see all the messaging around and not have to buy into it, which is a hugely powerful step. And then two, honoring oneself and feeling truly happy instead of tearing oneself down every day. It's about really liberating oneself, mind, body, and soul, to awaken to their greatest self.
That's, yo, come on now. Come on. Snaps on this one. Snaps. I don't know if they still snap, but you know, I'm gonna go ahead on snap. It may be corny now, but I still snap. But yo, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Like, I love it. Man, there's so much I want to say behind that, but I'm not gonna hold you up, but I want to get you on the record. Will you come back to talk more about just energy healing and and I mean soon now. Because it's all those titles I just couldn't cover it in one episode. So can you come back and please talk more about that?
Absolutely. It's my life passion. So I'd be so honored to talk about that. Energy healing, anti-racism. Absolutely. It's important stuff, especially during these times. And there's just so much going on. And actually, how do we take care of ourselves when all this is going on, right? And this is a beautiful time for growth, actually. It really is.
Yes. Thank you so much. And look, the lit factor is about LIT. staying lit, living in your truth. And so, sister, I got to say that you are definitely living in your truth. And it sounds like again, that synergy is there because even though we're using different words, the mission is the same, which is empowering people, allowing people to understand that they can be free from the negative feedback loop that you get stuck in, where you stare at your past and you fear your future instead of being in your present. Again, the past is history, the future mystery, and today is a gift, which is why it's called the present. If you are fearing everything that you see, if you're constantly being triggered, then you can't take full advantage of that gift. And so that's why we do what we do, and we're passionate about doing what we do. Again, look, what we desire for you is to be unapologetically authentic and being yourself, not to cause harm to other people, not to be, that's not what it's about. It's about understanding that you are worthy. There's nothing unworthy about you, that you are not less than, that you are just as equal as your greatest hero. You equal to that person. No person is higher or lower than the next. And coming to that truth. It's not about your skills or what you can or can't do. It's more or less what you choose for life and what you believe is possible for you. Having that faith, and again, faith is not belief in what you do see, because the eyes, they see what it can't do, what we can't have, because we are inherently, something is wrong with us, says the illusion. Faith is truly believing and accepting that you will have an experience, the experience that you choose, but you have to get out of that fear state and move to that theta state, like the sister was saying. You have to understand that your awareness, wherever attention goes, energy goes, and so we must develop a skill of moving our awareness to our truth as opposed to our fears, which again is false evidence appearing real. Look, I got to go to this clubhouse, y'all. Is there anything else you want to say to people, Miss Nicolette? I'm sorry, I combined your name. I said Miss Nicolette.
You gave me a new name. You've just branded me. I got a new brand.
I combined yours and last name and said Miss Nicolette. Miss Sublette, is there anything else you want to say?
I love it. No. I think we had a beautiful dialogue, and I want to definitely come back and continue to co-create this dialogue together and keep spreading messages of healing and love for people, and being unapologetically authentic.
Yes. Yo, you know what? I'm gonna let me get you backstage. I'm gonna talk to you for just a second before I jump in this other thing on Clubhouse. But sister, again, I want to put this on wax. It's definitely been a privilege and honor, and I've definitely learned. I've learned from you. I've grown from you. People are on the same wavelength, and you give. There is no losing. Amplification of already there, which is the truth of who we are. Again. So my message is to stay lit. But sister, thank you again, and let me put you backstage for just a moment. All right.
Yes, absolutely. You're welcome.
All right, y'all. Y'all heard it. Miss Nicole Sublette, licensed New Hampshire, Certified Hypnotherapist, Reiki Master, empowerment coach, financial educator. Y'all heard the website. I believe it's Becoming Goddess.com. If not, I'm going to put it down at the bottom when we produce this show. So just be looking down at the bottom. We will have Miss Sublette's links down there. So please check out her. This is what you heard was a lot of what you was village and experience. What you heard was a lot of the what you heard was someone being unapologetically authentic and expressing the passion that she seeks to empower people, so people can remove scales from their eyes and understand that you are worthy. That's it. And if we can understand that, then that will eliminate or alleviate the bulk of our fears. And if we could just move from that fear state, that beta fear state, to that theta state, where we move from the familiar known to what is unknown, and then we allow ourselves to adopt that childlike mentality when we begin to dream again, then we can see all of the possibilities. We're expanding our awareness to see all of the possibilities that may be available for us. And then we need but choose and have that. This has been, again, episode 9 of the Is That So show. I think that this was a great one. It's going to be I appreciate the mad love and respect from everybody. Agape and living in y'all truth, y'all.